Well, hello everyone, how are you? My name's Mike Monahan, I work up at the Sheriff's Department. I'm a 23-year veteran. I got hired up there under a guy by the name of Mike Bellotti. I don't know if you guys know him at all. So he hired me when I was very young, and I've been up there since. I was a narcotics handler for 10 years. So basically what I did is I got a dog, we went to training, we went out, we did all the school searches for narcotics and all that stuff. Pat McDermott just recently he became sheriff, and he called us in one day and he wanted to do this program as a comfort dog. So I bought it, I was all in. I only got a couple more years left before I get to retire, and he offered me this job and I ran with it. So right now, this is Eddie. Eddie's 17 months old. We rescued him from Florida. We work with a company called Professional Canine Services. They're out of Middleborough. And what they do is they train these dogs. And the training that basically consists of is basically, he's a good boy. He sits, he'll sit next to you. He doesn't jump. He'll give you his paw on occasion. And that's all we want, because we go to the hospitals, we go to the colleges, we go to the Council on Agings, we go to all the schools, the elementary schools in Norfolk County. So it's a 6-day-a-week job. We do all the public events. We're a one-man show. Well, there's actually 3 of us total that do all this. But, so we're busy. And I just wanted to let you guys know what we did. Like I said, he is all over the place. We go to the colleges. We go to all the places. He's a good little boy. Little background, like I said, I did narcotics for canine for a while ago, and I have an 85-pound lab at home, too, who's retired. His name was Randy. I've actually been here. We're in the other room way down there, and I did a demo for everybody. But yeah, so Pat McDermott allowed us to come out. Since he became sheriff, he allowed us to come out and do this stuff, and it's taken off like you wouldn't believe. It is busy, busy, busy. And the best part is we come in and we put a smile on your face. You get to pet a dog. And he's a good boy. So that's it. I mean, do we have any questions or anything like that? Like I said, we're willing to come out. If you think that there's a good resource that maybe we can go visit, we try to keep our visits anywhere for an hour, hour and a half. We're all over the place. We stop in. We go to the ARC programs, which is disabled adults. We go over and we see them, and we go into a room full of them, and you should see the look on their faces when we walk in. So it's a very rewarding end of a career for someone like me, and we all get to go in, and you're meeting people, and it's a good response we've gotten throughout. And if you notice, there's a lot of police departments locally too, including us, that are going the comfort dog way. A lot of tragedies. It could be a house fire, there could be a bad domestic dispute or whatever, and there's kids involved. So a lot of these officers are just going a couple days later, knocking on the door and letting the kids play with the dog. Which is huge for kids after they've been through a trauma to be able to do something like this. So like I said, Pat McDermott bought all in, and he's very good to our canine unit. We're out in the community, but this is our newest guy. And he's just a good boy. And it's a great story. We rescued him from Florida, brought him up, trained him. He came up with a brother and 3 sisters, and they're all rescuing comfort dogs. They're all working for certain police departments. We got lucky enough to get Eddie. And how we named him is we did all the kindergartens. It was like 28 kindergartens in Norfolk County. And we sent an email out, and we allowed all the kids to name them. So like one of the names was Edgar, and one of the names was Buddy, so we combined them and made him Eddie. So everybody got to win on that one. And then after that, we went and visited everyone that participated, and we got pictures taken, and we got to hang out with the classroom, and we still get emails every day to go back, and as many as we do a week, we try to get back to all the kindergartens and see the kids. And so it's a good community policing experience, basically, to be able to come out, and that's it. Do we have any questions? Sure.
What is the age of, they're too old or too young?
So how I say that, and I used to get that asked a lot with my narcotics guy. So I'm his handler, I'm his protector, I'm the guy that makes sure he's going into a safe environment. He'll look at me one day, and I'll know. Basically, there's no written age on the books. When he struggles getting in and out of the car, and he's looking up at me, and his hips are going, or he's having some medical problems or whatnot, and if he looks at me, you know your pets at home, right? You know your dogs. You know when they're having a bad day. That's a good question, though. I get that everywhere. And there's nothing written on the books that as of 10 years old they have to retire. So you just know, as a handler, if you're a good handler, you know when it's time.
Do you let little old lonely ladies borrow him for the day?
I can't. He's like my son. I can't give him up. But I'd be more than happy to come here once or twice or 3 times a month, whatever you guys want, and we can hang out for an hour or so, and you can hang out with them. We do that a lot in a lot of the Council on Agings. Whether it be bingo night or whatever it be, we just kind of sneak in the back door and say hello. We show up, and, like I said, we're putting a smile on people's faces. That's kind of all we're out here trying to do. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Eddie wasn't at Gillette yesterday, was he?
Eddie was not at Gillette yesterday. No.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
To see,
All the dogs?
the mannequin, and the dogs and the mannequins of a dog doing first aid.
Yep.
Because of the law, right?
And you know what they would teach you? So it's the new Nero's Law.
Exactly.
So I actually trained with all those guys. I trained with K9 Kit. I trained with Nero. When I used to have narcotics, it was a group of 80 of us. We all trained together. And Nero and Kit were a part of our group. So I'm very friendly with those handlers for a long, long time. And this Nero's Law, I don't know if you are familiar with this, it allows an EMT personnel to work on the dog. So when Kit got shot in the woods or when Nero got shot in the attic, EMTs aren't allowed, like paramedics arriving on the ambulance, aren't allowed to work on the dogs. It's the person first, which I understand. The person shot, you're going to take care of the person first. That's kind of why we get these dogs, to protect people. But now the paramedics will be able to come and treat the dog in the back of the ambulance just as much as they're treating him like a real working police officer dog now. He has rights now. He has the right to be taken care of. He has the right for a paramedic to come out and treat him in the back of an ambulance just until they get him to the vet. Whether it be giving him an IV, whether it be putting clot if he got shot or anything like that. It's a great, great law. Because they are one of us. They do go out in the community every single day. A lot of these patrol dogs will go in first, like Nero. He went in the attic to protect his handler, and he got shot and killed. So we owe it to these dogs to protect them. You know?
I'm just curious if the narcotics dog will wear down first as opposed to the comfort dog, because their career might be a little more.
So I'll speak for my narcotics dog. He worked for about 10 and a half, almost 11 years. And when we first started, our first 3 or 4 or 5 years, we were working 4 or 5 days a week. We were doing warrants every single day, just about. We were going into homes. Some homes have 16 rooms, some homes have 3 rooms. But that's on me, though. So it never stops me from saying, hey, I'm going to search 4 rooms. I'm going to put him away for a little bit. He's going to get some water. I'll get some food in him. And then I'm going to give him a break and bring him back. There's no rush in a narcotic world. Everything is just sit back and watch. So if it takes me an extra 2 hours because I don't want him to be stressed out, that's what we do. You know? But these dogs work wonders. And like I said, I get to experience that end of it, and now I get to experience this end of it. And when you walk into a room and everyone's happy to see you come into the room, rather than the bad guys not happy to see you come into the room, it's a gratifying feeling.
Yeah.
You know? Yes.
What happens to Eddie when you retire, Mike?
He lives with me and my family. Just like my old guy Randy, he's retired, and my wife takes him for walks every morning before she goes to work. He lives a great life. And there's actually legislation now up at the State House that the state now wants to take care of all retired working dogs, whether it be pay their vet bills and give them a bag of food once a month. That's up there as a law. I don't know if it's going to pass, but if you happen to ever talk to anybody, they deserve it. They work harder than we do. You know, so if we can take care of them at the end of their life and give them, because you know vets now, you take an average dog to the vet now, it's $600-700. You know, so. Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What is the difference, if any, between a service dog and a therapy dog?
What is the difference? There isn't much of a difference, but a service dog is designed for you. So if you have ailments at home, whether it be in a wheelchair, whether it be narcolepsy and you fall asleep, whatever it be, whatever your ailment is, that dog is specifically designed to take care of you and your ailment. This guy, Eddie, is designed to do what he's doing right now. He walks in, he lets you pet him, puts a smile on people's faces, he comes up and he sits next to you. A service dog is designed to help whomever with the problem that they're experiencing, if that makes sense to you. And that's a lot of training. You know, these service dogs, when you see some of these people in wheelchairs or walking with canes or whatever, that is some intense, intense training for these dogs. A lot more get washed out of the training than actually retire from, thrive from the training, come out of the training. So something good to know, yeah. So that they're designed for the certain ailment of the person. You know, whether it be they could answer a phone, they could hit a phone off, they could do all of that stuff, but they're all trained to do all that. And if you didn't know, the training in these dogs, and all of these dogs, is a food reward. A lot of them, some of them are ball rewards, but like for Eddie, for instance, and what do all dogs like to do? Eat. So they'll do anything for you if they get a reward at the end. And that's how we train the narcotic dogs. We hold real we have a DEA license with real narcotics. We apply for it and get it, so we're allowed to carry it. And we hold the odor, and when he responds to the odor, he gets rewarded. Then he gets rewarded again. And then a couple weeks later, you hide that odor and you bring him into a room and he goes and finds the odor, gets rewarded. So every time he smells that odor, he's like, wow, this is great, I'm getting fed. So then you teach him to go look for that odor. And then he goes and looks for that odor and sits down in front of that odor and gets rewarded again. So it's a simple process, but it's a long process. Yes.
I'm just curious if there are certain breed of dogs that are,
Great question. So I started this type of job about 13 years ago, and typically what we were doing was we were doing yellow labs. A yellow lab smells any times between 10 to 15,000 times what we smell as a human. So they'll go in, and I say this to a lot of the demos I do. It's like when you walk into a home and someone made a bag of microwave popcorn, the whole house smells like it, right? This is how these guys can smell odor. So we can't smell the drug odor, but they can. They can walk into a house and know right off the bat if they're in a certain room or if there's something hidden in the walls. It's that amount of odor that comes out that attracts them. We don't smell any of that, but we smell the bag of microwave popcorn in every single room in the house. You know, that's kind of the best way I can explain that. Their sense of smell is phenomenal, and they use their sense of smell for everything they do all day long. So we work on that. We kind of take that and give these dogs a reason to kind of go out and do their thing. But you know, it's a whole different environment out there, and the training is intense, and with the legality of it, a couple years ago with the change of marijuana, you know, so when I had a narcotic guy, that affected me a little bit because I couldn't, my old narcotic dog would sit and tap his nose on the odor. He wouldn't lift his right leg up for marijuana and his left leg up for cocaine. You'd teach him the 28 odors, but you'd have the same response to the odors. So what they were doing is they were getting smart. They were putting a pound of marijuana in the car and 3 kilos of cocaine in the trunk. And he was sitting because he knew he was doing his job. He knew there was drugs there, but you couldn't search for it because marijuana is not illegal anymore. So they beat us to at our own game. So now all our dogs that are coming out of the academies are non-marijuana trained. And I'm a proponent. I mean, listen, if marijuana helps these patients and stuff like that, I'm a proponent. I mean, whatever helps. You know, people aren't robbing and stealing and doing whatever for the marijuana laws. You know, that's not a big deal. But that's how it affected these narcotic dogs. They got smart, that people didn't realize until it started happening. You know, so go ahead.
I have two questions. The first one being, what happens to the dogs that don't make it in the program?
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is, I've had animals all my adult life. I never had them when I was little, but I have kids in my family that are dead afraid of dogs. And when you go in and you're dealing with little people, and you can see a kid tense up.
Absolutely.
You let him pat him.
So I'll answer your second question first. So when I go to these schools, would you say, Paul, 1 out of every school, 1 kid gets very hesitant?
Yes.
And you know what I do? I stay back. So when all the kids leave and they'll all go back to their classrooms because they have lunch or whatever they have, little so-and-so stays back with the teacher, and all I do is I go and I sit in the corner. And I drop the leash and I just let them hang out. And 99% of those kids will come up and pet that dog. And then it's a big deal. Then I've got letters from parents. I've got emails and calls from parents. Oh my God, he wouldn't get near a dog. Thank you so much. I've gone back to schools to see him. Oh, leave him alone. Gone back to schools to see the kid because he was still hesitant to be able to go meet him. Good boy. Just letting us know someone's coming in the door. And your second question is, what the ones that don't make it, they get adopted out. So my company, or the company I train with, Professional Canines, if they don't make it, they have plenty of adoption agencies that families will come down and meet the dog and they'll adopt them out. So, yeah. Any other questions? I don't want to take too much more of your time. I said Miss Toomey allowed me to come in and kind of explain myself to you guys and talk to you guys. So you'll be seeing a lot more of me in this building, we hope. I'd like to stop by once or twice a month. We'll kind of get on a rotation of whatever's going on. And like I said, just stop in and say hello. Go ahead. We can bring you, so he can get treats, yes. If you had treats, you could give him a treat. I would allow it, yes. Go ahead.
How many dogs are there around Quincy like that?
So as far as comfort dogs, I don't know if Quincy PD has one, but most police departments are getting them. You know, like I said, when I first got mine, there wasn't much, and everyone now is kind of resorting to them. So I welcome it because it's so busy. It would be nice to have another dog come in and kind of help out. But I think you'll see the city of Quincy eventually get one. If not, they're in the process now of getting. I can't speak for them, but like the local police departments are all getting them. You know, and it's like I said, it's more for like the trauma when there's a house fire or something bad. There's nothing wrong with a day later going and knocking on someone's door and saying, "Hey, you want to come play with the dog?" And they're kids. Kids go through trauma just like adults do, and it's good for a kid to be able to throw a ball to a dog in the backyard. Just little things like that, you know? And all these chiefs of police are great with this, and they've all bought into this. And it's the world we live in nowadays. You know? You want to keep everybody happy and smiling, and so that's kind of what I've experienced. I've been doing this a little over a year and a half, so it's just a great feeling. Like I said, I get to come talk to you guys all day long.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Best friend to work with.
Every day, and even with my old narcotic guy, there's nothing like, I'd shake my keys at the front door and he'd go and jump in my cruiser, and I'd tell him all my problems, and he'd agree with me all day long. Never talks back. He agrees with all my problems. So nothing like going to work with your best friend.
Yeah.
So no other questions. It was nice to meet you all. I'm going to come back and bring in my, I'm going to go get some business cards. I'll leave at the end there if you guys are more than welcome. Call me. My cell phone's on there. If you're a part of groups, or if you're a part of anything within the county, Norfolk County, and you think that they would benefit for having a meeting with Eddie, more than happy to come out and meet you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
What a great way to start. Thank you so much for being here today. We're talking about self-compassion for resilience. And I just want to thank you for being here. My name is Debbie. I'm the Injury Prevention Coordinator for Tufts Medical Center. And I've been lucky enough to have the sponsorship of the Quincy Health Department to help me to be able to do my outreach program in this way, and that's why you see me here all the time. My background is nursing. I've been a nurse for over 30 years, but I also have a passion for resilience. I have a passion for self-care. I have a passion for anything that's going to help me and those around me to feel good. That's my value. I help people feel better, and that's why I went into nursing. I studied positive psychology, which is some people call the science of happiness and longevity. But under that umbrella, I learned that there are different aspects that can help us become happier. And self-compassion is one of them, because self-compassion is a way for us to become happier with us, with ourselves, okay? Which is very, very important. We are always taught to be compassionate of others. Be kind to others, do for others. Very rarely are we taught to be kind to ourselves, be good to ourselves without making us feel guilty or selfish. The science of self-compassion is so important. It's so important that some people say it's one of the keys to success. It's one of the keys to resilience. And that's why I want to share that with you, because it's never too late. So a disclaimer, anything that you hear from me, don't let that change or replace any of your treatments that you have with your doctors. If anything, I hope my goal is it can enhance whatever it is that you're trying to do for yourself and what your treatments are with your physicians, okay? So overview, we'll talk about self-compassion, the definition of it, and the 3 components of self-compassion. We'll practice self-compassion skills, and I'll challenge you to determine which skill that you might want to practice for the next week until we see each other again. So what is self-compassion? According to Kristin Neff, this is her book, Self-Compassion. This is a very good book. She is one of the key experts in the field of self-compassion, along with Chris Germer. But according to her, in a nutshell, self-compassion is a compassion turned inwardly towards oneself, the same compassion that you would give to somebody you love. Okay? How many people here have good friends, family they love? How many people here have had moments with those friends that they had to comfort because that friend or special someone was suffering? Okay, so the invitation for this practice of self-compassion is gardening, getting all that energy, the tone of voice, the patience, the love, the words you use, and using that to yourself, for yourself, in the moments of suffering. So before I came here, I went for a walk, and I was listening to Kristin Neff and some of her videos, and she was saying how with self-compassion, we're not really taking care of the pain, but with self-compassion, we are taking care of ourselves because of the pain and allowing ourselves to kind of sit with that and kind of process it a little bit without criticizing or judging or being, harsh on ourselves. It's allowing yourself to just kind of like sit with yourself. Does that make sense? Because so many times, we just, I'll take care of it later, or it's like, oh, I'm just imagining it, or, we kind of suppress. And sometimes that can eat us up. That can eat us up. So here is Kristen Neff, and then Chris Germer. They created this study called Mindful Self-Compassion, which is actually a beautiful thing. I know there are people here who took my mindfulness classes, right? So this is a nice adjunct to that, because as I will explain later, there's aspects of mindfulness in this practice of self-compassion. So according to both of them, self-compassion is the antidote. It cancels out self-criticism, self-pity, and shame. That's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. So there are some myths to self-compassion, and maybe reasons why people would say, oh, no, that's not for me. That's a yucky, mushy stuff, or that's not for me. So it could be that, maybe they feel that when you practice self-compassion, you're suffering in self-pity. It's not. Some people would say self-compassion is being weak. It's not. Some people would say when you practice self-compassion, it's just being complacent. It's not. Some people would say, oh, you're being narcissistic when you practice self-compassion. It's all about you, 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 you. It's not. And some people would say it's selfish, but it's not. The way Kristen Neff describes or really dissects what self-compassion is by saying there's 3 components to it. First, you need to be aware of it, that you are suffering. And she says a component of self-compassion is mindfulness. You need to be aware that you're suffering. You need to be aware when you're like in a fetal position, you're shaking. You need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that you have this migraine headache and you've been kind of like hurting and you're rubbing your forehead. You need to be aware when you're rubbing your neck because you're so tense and stressed. You need to be aware. And the opposite of mindfulness, she says, is over-identification, which is basically ruminating on that suffering. Okay? When you can recognize that you have been ruminating, it's, oh my God, I'm so bad. Oh my God, I'm such a loser. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm so bad. Oh my God, I'm so guilty. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh my God. If you live in that space, you're over-identifying, and you are being so harsh on yourself. So when you practice self-compassion, the first part is being aware of that over-identification, that rumination, so that you can say, oh, okay, I just spent maybe half a day beating myself up. I think it's time to stop. So in that space, you are aware and you're pausing, and then there's that moment where, okay, I need to make a choice. Do I want to spend the rest of the day beating myself up, or maybe I need to just kind of do something that can make me feel good, or maybe get my mind off of it. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll get myself a nice bottle of water or a cup of tea, or maybe I'll text a friend just to see what they're doing. So that way you're unhooking yourself from that rumination, and that's where mindfulness comes in. You're stopping that broken record. The second component is self-kindness versus self-judgment. Okay, so the first component is mindfulness. Second one is self-kindness, being kind to yourself. Again, we were raised to be kind to others, right? We're raised to open the door for somebody, or maybe if you're serving a meal, you're raised to let the people that you invited to have as many food as they want. And yeah, you'll have a little bit, but you just want to make sure they get as much as they want, even more. Okay? We're raised to do that. But when we want to take part in that pie, a slice of pie, sometimes it might be seen as being selfish because, hey, listen, there's other people here. Let other people go first, right? And then you'll get what's left over. So self-kindness is very important. It's good for us to own it. It's good for us to own it. And she says that self-kindness can help cancel out self-judgment. Okay, anybody here tend to be judgmental towards themselves? Do you have moments like that? Do you have moments when you're just like so harsh on yourself? She says, Kristen Neff would say, sometimes the language, the harsh language that happens in here that we listen to, that we entertain, sometimes it's so bad that we wouldn't even say it to our own enemy. It can be really harsh, and we're listening to it over and over, and we are identifying with that, and it's not so. So in the space of self-compassion, we're allowed to take care of ourselves. We're allowed to be kind to ourselves. Another component to self-compassion is common humanity. Knowing that everybody has their ups and downs. Everybody will experience stress. Everybody will look funny with a bedhead in the morning. Everybody will cry when they're in pain. Everybody will have their ugly moments. And it's okay. So when we can remember that, when we make mistakes, or we say something that we regret, instead of ruminating on the fact that, oh my God, I'm so bad. I just went to church. I can't believe I just judged somebody. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad. Oh, that rumination. When we are mindful, we catch ourselves, we pause, we offer ourselves some space, and maybe remembering that, okay, I'll do better next time. Everybody makes mistakes. We're in the same boat. So she says common humanity can cancel out isolation. Because when we are in the space of guilt, or even worse, shame, we kind of hide sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. We just kind of hide a little bit because we don't want people to see us. You're embarrassed. So she says, in the space of self-compassion, remember, we're all in this together. Everybody can feel that way sometimes. Does that make sense? So the three components: mindfulness, catching yourself. Second component is self-kindness. Third component is remembering we're only human. More on what Kristen Neff says about self-compassion. She said, with self-compassion, we mindfully accept that the moment is painful and embrace ourselves with kindness and care in response, remembering that imperfection is part of a shared human experience. She says that basically part of life is suffering. That's just the way it is. There is going to be stress. There's going to be moments of stress. There's going to be times when the stress is good stress. There's going to be times when the stress is a stress that can motivate us. And there's going to be some stress that can really just kind of get us to a point where we're screaming because we're so frustrated. So as we move through life, as we get older and older, there are going to be moments of stress. And maybe in that stress, it could be a stretching and helping us become a better version of ourselves. But there might be a stress that could be really filled with suffering. So just accepting that in that space of self-compassion is important. So, I don't want to kind of get too heady, but I just want to really ground the fact that self-compassion is a practice. It's a science, it's a way of viewing life and yourself, and it's been researched. It's been researched. And research has shown that it decreases depression, anxiety, stress, and emotional avoidance. Okay? It's also been seen as a key component in overcoming adversity. In this 2011 study by the University of California, They found that it can increase motivation to recover from failure. So it's anything but a passive thing, being self-compassionate. And it's not being weak when you practice self-compassion. And it's not wallowing and being full of self-pity. And it's not narcissistic to be self-compassionate. If anything, when people practice it, they become more and more and more resilient. So here, let's practice some skills. Before that, let's just talk quickly about Eddie. 6 lessons about self-compassion from a dog. All right? Kind of looks like Eddie in a way, right? Yeah. All right. Dogs remind us to pause. Mindfulness. Right? Dogs are curious. They'll see something that's kind of really be fully there and just kind of, oh, they're curious. This is the first time they've seen it. They remind us to slow down and pause. Be in the moment. They connect us to nature. Being out in nature is so important. We're all human beings. We need the vitamin D. We need the fresh air. We need to be around plants and trees. We need to be around others also. Dogs show us what unconditional love looks like. Dogs remind us we are not alone and we are okay just as we are. And dogs help us release oxytocin, which is that feel-good hormone. And dogs show us our own generosity. Let's practice some of the skills that we covered last time. And here, the first one is permission to be human. Second is supportive touch. And the third is how would you treat a friend? The term permission to be human is a term that I learned from Tal Ben-Shahar when I was studying positive psychology. He taught positive psychology in Harvard, and he made Harvard history by having so many students sign up for his class. So many students sign up for his class because they needed a way to feel happy, because they were just so they're just so ambitious, those students, and they worked so hard, and some of them were really suffering. So his class became really popular. One of the things I learned about positive psychology is self-compassion. And Tal says, when you look through the lens of self-compassion, look at it and see that you're only human. See that people around you are human. And when you look in the mirror, see that you're human. And when you make mistakes or when you feel like you didn't do your best, remember to give yourself permission to be human. And I love this little GIF here because it has many different little things that can remind us to be human. And I love the saying, it's okay not to be okay as well. See here, the Band-Aid here. Sometimes we cut ourselves. Physically, maybe, and sometimes maybe with words, we cut ourselves real deep. The O, hugging. You know, we all need that touch. The hug is so important. The hug is so important. And also, crying. Crying is okay. Crying is not a sign of weakness. Crying is one of our positive release that allows us to express, whether it's joy. Anybody cry here when they're laughing sometimes so hard? Me. That's an expression, yeah. Or anybody cry here when they're sad? I'm a crier. Proud to say. You know, so it's a way for us to release positive and negative emotions, but it's a good release. And sometimes in order for us to feel human, sometimes we need medications so that way we feel more in control. We feel less anxious. We feel less depressed maybe. And that's okay. That's something you need maybe in that moment for a short time or maybe forever, but it's okay. And sometimes we feel broken. You know, we just feel broken, or we're just, you know, we have scars, or, you know, we have wrinkles, whatever it is. We just feel like we're broken. Again, practicing mindfulness, self-kindness, common humanity is so important. Supportive touch. Touch activates the care system and the parasympathetic nervous system to help us calm down and feel safe. It's so important to feel safe. Some people don't feel safe even in their own home. Some people don't even feel safe in their own body. So there's something to be said about feeling safe. And one of the best ways to help us feel calm and feel safe is through touch, supportive touch. Samples of supportive touch. Okay, let's do this together. Okay, so you can determine for yourself which of the supportive touch you like. Okay, so you could put hand over hand, hand over heart. You want to try that? See if you're a kind of person who feels good, just putting your hand on your heart. And just kind of check in. Just notice. You can close your eyes if you want to, so that way you can just kind of, and you know that you like it when you take a nice deep breath and just like what I just did. I just took a deep breath. When you let out a sigh, that means, okay, that's a good one. I like that. Or maybe hand on the cheek, or 2 hands on the cheek. How does that feel? Okay, just noticing how that feels for you. Close your eyes and just notice, how was that? And again, if you let out a sigh, that's good. And it maybe, how about crossing your arms and giving a gentle squeeze? It's like hugging yourself. How's that? Or maybe 1 hand on the abdomen and 1 over the heart. How is that? So, just checking in with your body, and just noticing, okay, I think I like the other one better, or this is just as good, or oh, I don't like this one. Or maybe both hands. 1 hand on the abdomen, or both hands on the abdomen, just noticing how that feels. So these are just examples of supportive touch, okay? And you might have a touch that you do for yourself, maybe just maybe in a prayer, or just maybe clasping your hands, or maybe some people, they do one of these. It's so whatever it is that you tend to do to help soothe yourself, to comfort yourself, just notice that. It's good to be aware of that, so that when you are noticing that you're self-soothing, you can ask yourself, what's going on here? How am I feeling? What's going on? Am I feeling good? Is everything okay? It's like you're checking in on that friend of yours, but it's you asking yourself, how am I doing? What's going on? I feel good. Or sometimes you might say, I'm very frustrated. So you just kind of, you talk it out. You name it, you label it. But at least you're checking in on that person, which is you. All right, so third one that we did last time is, how would you treat a friend? Recall a time when a close friend felt badly about him or herself. How did you respond to that person? Okay, just take a moment. I know we did this last week, but maybe, think about another moment. Just notice, where was that time? What was going on? How was that your friend? Were they sitting down? Were they standing? If the friend was sitting, were you standing over that person, or did you sit next to that friend so that you are close to that friend and you were eye to eye? And were you talking softly to soothe that friend, or were you just saying you're loud, or you were just kind of impatient? Was your tone, were you patient and were you just kind of fully there, or was your foot out the door and just say, oh yes, I see you're suffering. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll always be fine. Or do you just kind of listen? Somebody said that last time, empathetic listening, right? So are you there, totally open? You have all the time in the world for that friend. So just kind of really taking note of how you are with a friend. And now, think about the last time you felt badly about yourself. How did you treat yourself? Were you that same person that you were with that friend to you, the you that's suffering? How was the tone of your voice? Was it harsh? Was it kind? Was it patient? Was it soft? Was it loving? Was it loud? Were you fully there for yourself? No. To just kind of take note. And, this exercise is not meant to beat yourself up even more, because maybe you're not fully, you weren't like that to yourself as you were with your friend. But it's more of a awareness exercise, so that perhaps next time, if you happen to experience a moment where you felt badly about yourself, or you were embarrassed, or you did something wrong, instead of beating yourself up and being harsh and being loud and being impatient, perhaps remembering, being mindful. Oh, okay, it's starting to happen. I'm starting to beat myself up. Mindfulness, self-kindness. Okay, what can I do right now just so, I can kind of get over this? What do I need? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to talk to a friend? Do I need to journal? Do I need to listen to music? And common humanities, like, okay, I'm only human. Everybody has bad moments. I'm going to just sit with myself right now and just kind of let all the feelings arise, and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something to make myself feel better. Maybe make a cup of tea. So just noticing the difference is so important. Anybody find that there's a difference between the way you treat your friend and those you love and the way you treat yourself? Yes, yeah. And I'm not here as the model of like, oh, that never happens to me. I still have to work with it. This is a lifelong practice, so it's just, I love teaching this and sharing this because it reminds me not to be hard on myself, because I like to do things. I like to get things done, and I just like to learn, and I just like to keep being a better person. And sometimes it can be a lot, and it can be very stressful, and there can be moments of suffering. But when I teach this, I remind myself, okay, chill out. Practice what you preach, and it's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Take a deep breath, and maybe, just go for a nice walk. And turn off all electronics, maybe. Shut off the phone, shut off Facebook, shut off whatever. Just get out there and walk. So whatever it is that will make you feel better. Remember Eddie, the comfort dog? I'm not sure if I shared this before in this class or other class. One day my youngest son and I were walking down the beach. Across the beach was a woman who was walking her little puppy. And this little puppy was yelping so loudly we could hear him from across the street. Yeah, jumping up and down, just yelling, like yelping. It's like a yelper. And I said, oh my gosh, what if the chatter in our mind is like that little yelping dog? And what if there's a way that we can just kind of say, okay, so you sit, or we could say, okay, I'll pick you up. So what I'm trying to get at is another approach to getting that thought from, maybe not getting rid of it, but maybe taming it and just saying, okay, right now, I'm going to put you right here on the side, you sit. and I'm going to do what I need to do, which is exercise, feel good, and just keep doing that. And if it starts yelping, say, okay, sit, because you are in control. You're in control. You have to remember you are in control. You ask that part of your thought, just sit down, have a seat. And maybe sometimes you might need to pick up that thought, that dog, that yelping dog. And maybe you might need to give it a little bit of supportive touch. Maybe it just needed that attention, okay? So that's just depending on how, what the thought is, how bad it is. It's just another way of approaching these thoughts that ruminates in our mind. Because some people would say that we have all these thousands of thoughts that run in our head, and a lot of them were from the past. We just kind of live in the past sometimes, you know? So it's just with the mindfulness, it puts us in the present moment. With the self-kindness, we're offering ourselves that love, that warmth. And common humanity is just knowing and remembering we're in the same boat. Does that make sense? Yeah. Loving kindness meditation. Loving kindness meditation. And I invite you to create your own loving kindness meditation afterwards, okay? And people have notebooks maybe, or piece of paper. We have some paper here. Loving kindness meditation, some people would call it a metta, and it's a series of phrases that you would repeat over and over. And you can include yourself in it. It could be all about you, or you can include yourself, others, and others with it, okay? So this is a loving kindness meditation that I like to share with people. So let's do that. Let's practice it, okay? The way to do that is you want to be able to say the phrases as if it's coming from your heart. Allow it to be heartfelt, okay? And for some people, it might be easier if you put your hand over your heart. So that way it reminds you to really speak from the heart. And we'll repeat the phrases. Just repeat after me. And if you could say it out loud, or if you feel like, oh, I don't feel like saying it out loud, you can say it to yourself, okay? But again, the key is heartfelt. This is our practice of being kind to ourselves and others and sending goodwill. All right, so let's begin. Okay. Take a deep breath. Remembering intention is from the heart. Let's begin. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe and secure. Good. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe and secure. Okay? And then we. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be safe and secure. Okay, so we'll do it again, okay? So the first round is may I. The second round is may you. The third round is may we, okay? Because here we're including ourselves in that equation, okay? So here we go. Again, heartfelt. Breathing in and out. Good. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe and secure. From the heart. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe and secure. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be safe and secure. Deep breath in and out. Good. So some ways to practice this. There's a lot of phrases. You could be walking down the hall here, or driving, or maybe looking out the window. Whoever you see, maybe you could say, may you be happy. Just sending that good vibe. May you be healthy. Okay? May you be safe and secure. So we're creating this positive vibe. And don't forget yourself, because this is a self-compassion class. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe and secure. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you be safe and secure. So you can, it's just one of those things that as you're walking, you could just kind of say it. But just remember to say it from the heart. Any questions about that? Who liked this one? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm going to invite you to create your own loving kindness meditation. Okay? There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just think about what you would put there to make it seem more personal, because these are the words I like to use, but you might have something else. May I feel confident. May I feel grounded. May I feel centered. May I feel happy. May I feel joyful. Whatever it is. Anybody want a piece of paper? So just create something that you feel when you say it. This is you. This is, I need this. I feel like this is something I could share out there with others. These are good intention, good vibes. Just ask yourself, what do you need right now? That's a good way to start. What do you need? May I feel love? May I feel comfort? What do you need right now? 3 things that you need right now. Something that's going to sound like you. Something that you could just say over and over. Over and over. Like a nice mantra. May I feel peace. May I feel joyful. May I feel hopeful. May I feel strong. May I feel, fill in the blank. May I be more content. May I be more accepting. May I be more aware. How does that sit with you? Feels good? Feels like,
Yes.
Yeah, good, yeah. These words, when you say them, they're meant to build you. They're meant to kind of fill you up. They're meant to kind of sustain you, and be with you. And it's meant to help remind you to be that, or to feel that, or to just kind of, accept that. Because you might, as you're saying this, you might see that people might be, you said kindness. You might notice that other people are becoming more kind towards you, because you're seeing that, So it's really a magnetic type thing. It's beautiful to be able to live in that space, and that's why the loving kindness meditation is so powerful. The invitation for all of you who have written your own loving kindness meditation is for you to embrace that, to send yourself those goodwills. If you want, share it with others as well. But because we're talking about self-compassion, it starts here. It starts with you. It starts with you. You. Okay, so own it. Own it. And just embrace it. And be curious. Why did I write down fulfillment? What is that about? Just be curious. It's like, oh, kindness. Oh, what's that about? What is it? Have I been kind? I think I have. Maybe I need to be more kind. So it's almost like that dialogue. What does that look like for me today? Feeling fulfilled. What does that look like? Well, I got out of bed. That's good. And I'm in a different location. I'm not staying at home. I feel fulfilled in that respect. So it doesn't have to be like this whole ambitious thing. It could be something. So what does that look like today? So that way, the next time you do it, it's like, oh, okay, what else? What else can I do? What else? What else? Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. All right, so again, the 3 components to self-compassion is mindfulness. You need to be aware of suffering, okay? Because in that term, compassion, you're trying to alleviate a suffering, okay? And because it's self-compassion, trying to alleviate the self-compassion. And one of the best ways to do that is becoming aware that you are suffering. And offering yourself self-kindness. The kindness that you would offer to yourself on a Monday might be different from a Sunday, from a Tuesday. So, and depends on where you are too. When I used to work at Tufts, when I took care of a lot of patients, I used to do 12-hour shifts, sometimes 16-hour shifts. The self-kindness that I would give to myself is, okay, I'm going to go downstairs and get myself a nice cup of coffee. That was self-kindness. That's what I could afford to do that day. Okay, that's the only thing that I had time for. If it was a Sunday on my day off, self-kindness would be much different. I would be out for a drive, depending on where you are, challenging yourself to determine what does self-kindness, what does feeling fulfilled look like, what does feeling confident look like today, at this very moment. What can you afford to do in that respect? And common humanity, remembering we have feelings, we have emotions, we have moments. We're all in this together. All right, so the challenge or invitation, I should say, is I want to ask you which practice might you want to try for a week. We went over a few, right? Then when will you do that practice? And where would you do that practice? Okay, so we talked about, can people remember what was the first one? Permission to be human. And then we did the supportive touch, right? So, and then treating a friend. And then there was the loving kindness meditation. And then your own mantra, your own loving kindness meditation. What of the skills, the practices that we did today, do you think you might want to do more of? I want you to really exercise the self-compassion muscle so that when the voice, that inner critic starts yelping, you're able to take note of it and just say, okay, shh, you sit, and I'm going to do what I need to do. Or maybe you just need to pick it up and then maybe give yourself that supportive touch. One of the best ways to initiate a new habit, a positive habit, is really thinking about it and visualizing when would you do that practice. Would you do it first thing in the morning? Would you do it during the day? You're going to be meeting with groups of friends. There's one friend who, just kind of like, gets at you. Would you practice it right there as you're listening to that friend or before you listen to that friend? Just kind of taking note what you have going that day, what you have going that week, so that you'll know when you'll be able to practice that new habit. Okay? And also where. Thank you so much for being here today.